Hi, everybody, it's Elaine, and today I'm going to be talking about Rachel Kane and Anna Guire's Honor Among Thieves. It is told from the perspective of Zara Cole, who is a thief and a delinquent living on the fringes of New Detroit's society. She is convinced that her life is taking a turn for the better when she manages to steal a purse from a really rich girl. That is until she finds out that the person she stole from is Torian DeLuca's daughter. Torian is a psychopath who will stop at nothing to exact revenge on Zara for stealing from his daughter. And Zara becomes very scared. She's convinced that the only way out of her current predicament is to check herself into rehab and let things simmer down. Unfortunately, trouble finds her even in rehab, and she feels like she's running out of options. That is until she is chosen to take part in the tour. It's basically described as a cultural exchange program between the Leviathan, which are giant sentient spaceships that happen to look like whales, and in this case, humans. But she doesn't want to go because she's afraid of feeling confined. She's addicted to freedom, and the idea of freedom and being in space frightens her. But she decides to go along on this journey for a year because if she doesn't, she's convinced that DeLuca will find a way to kill her. Although I liked this book, I felt as though it had several problems. First of all, it jumps right into things. It's really disorienting. I had no idea what was going on for like 50 or so pages. But then it started to make more sense around that time frame. The other thing that I didn't like was how Zara talks. She is the narrator. She has a very informal way of speaking. Um, she uses a lot of sentence fragments, which I personally don't like. It might not bother some people, but I don't like them. Another issue was that there are a lot of grammatical errors and spelling errors, and it made some of the sentences quite awkward, and it was difficult to follow along with the story. Another thing I really didn't like is Zara herself. She begins the novel as this extremely obnoxious person. She doesn't feel guilty for any of the crimes she commits, and this includes murder, which is a pretty hefty crime. Um, she's also really, really, really selfish. Probably one of the most selfish characters I've ever seen in a young adult novel. Even to the point where she forces her mother to sign an emancipation form against her will so that she can be free to do whatever the heck she wants in the lower eighth in New Detroit. And another problem with that is like she's so selfish and she's so concerned with her own interests that any growth that occurs, you can't help but wonder if it's genuine or just something that serves her own interests, like her own need to survive, her own need to do whatever she needs to do at the time. You just sit there and you're like, well, is this real? Is this not real? You can't even see it as growth. And I feel like that's a huge problem in your main character. She was such an appalling character that I came quite close to putting this book down. I could not stand this character. But once you get through the first part, things get a little better and the novel becomes quite enjoyable. The two things which really made this novel for me was the fact that it's really fast paced, like most YA novels. And the other thing that I really liked about this novel was Nadim. I really like Nadim because he is invested with a lot of human qualities. For example, he really longs to feel connected to others. He doesn't like feeling lonely. He doesn't want to feel alone anymore and like lost in space. And he really strives to make a connection with his honors, who are Beatriz and Zara. Another thing I really like about Nadim is the fact that he really goes out of his way to protect everybody and to make everyone he comes into contact with, especially his honors, feel comfortable and um, safe while in space, which isn't exactly the safest place in the world. Um, Ultimately, I feel like he was the only thing that really kept me interested in the book because I like him so much. And for the time being, that's okay. Um, but honestly, if he was not a part of the book, I would have put it down. I was so invested in him that I became upset whenever he had an issue, like he was in pain or he um, was injured in any way, shape, or form. Ultimately, I think I give this book a 3.8 out of 5 stars. It's good, but it definitely has some issues, which I spoke about earlier. Thanks for taking the time to listen. guys.